Matang, maayong buntag.
Mayong buntag, Roch.
Yes, welcome back to my Kalan class.
Of
By the way, can
course.
you hear and see me clearly?
Yes, kakita ko o kadongokko ni mo.
Yes, thank you so much. By the way, Matang, how are you today?
Okay, Lako. I feel happy because I ate grilled beef last evening with my parents at my parents' house, and we ate expensive lean beef and intestine that I don't usually eat.
So you were able to eat it again.
Again.
Wow, so lami.
Lami, Shanbai Hana.
Lami. Oh, that's really good. Like you're really eating good food there while you're staying at your parents' house.
Yes, we feel happy indeed.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah, like what else? Like, is that all? Like what you did eat yesterday or
Yes,
last night?
last night. Yes. Last night and the day before yesterday, we ate a lot of meat, lean meat, vegetables, fish or shell,
Shell.
shell, shell,
Clams.
crab,
Clams.
clams, and pumpkin,
Oh, pumpkin.
grilled pumpkin, and non-alcohol beer.
Oh, no, alcohol.
Yes.
Oh, that's really good. Like you really are enjoying eating a lot of foods there while you're staying at your parents' house.
Yes. And
Okay.
Roach Ikal.
Me? Like,
Yes.
how am I? Or
How have you been recently?
yeah. Like recently, yeah, I've been really well because
Well,
like yeah, and because like the weather also, even though it's very hot here, but yeah,
hot.
I can still we can still manage to like go outside and then
Mm.
yeah, maybe my day is really good.
Very good. How does the temperature?
No, the temperature is really hot. Like it would somehow went up to 34 degrees Celsius.
34.
Yeah, especially in the afternoon, it's really, really hot.
It's very なんつうの hot and burned.
Yeah, like somehow like oh, I really don't want to go outside. Like I just really wanted to stay inside the office because the air conditioner
No.
is so cold
Uh,
here.
yes, to stay inside is very safe and comfortable.
Yeah, that's really true. So maybe I guess I really prefer to stay inside the office than to go outside.
Of course, me too. Similar to me.
Yeah, hopefully like this hotness would somehow decrease sometimes. Not
Yes,
34, but maybe it's okay if it's 30.
it's 30. Yes, around 30. It's very
Yeah, around 30 is
comfortable.
okay. That's
Okay,
really true. Okay, thank you so much for that one, Yamachang. So now this
okay.
time, are you ready to
Of
start with our
course, of
Kalam
course.
lesson?
Yes.
Okay, so as I can see here, you had your new work until stage 10,
Mm,
paragraph 876 with the last word book. Is this correct?
that's correct.
Okay, now please put your book aside. We'll use it later when we do the reading practice. So now
Yes.
let's start with our daily revision. So are you ready?
Ready now, call.
Okay, so now let's start. What equipment would you need if you wanted to paint your bedroom a different color? What equipment would you need if you wanted to paint your bedroom a different color? The equipment
The
I'd need
equipment
if
I'd
I
need
wanted to
if I
paint
wanted to
my
paint
bedroom
my
a different
bedroom a
color
different
would be
color would be brushes,
paint, a
paint,
ladder,
a
etc.
radar, etc.
Very well. So, can the
Thank
motion
you.
of a car or boat make people, especially children, feel sick? Can the motion of a car or boat make people, especially children, feel sick? Yes, the
Yes,
motion of
the
a
motion
car
of a
or
car
boat
or a
can make
boat can
people,
make people,
especially
especially
children, feel
children,
sick.
feel sick.
What does someone mean if they say, I feel such a fool? What does someone mean if they say, I feel such a fool? If someone
If someone
says,
says,
I feel
I
such a
feel
fool,
such a
they
fool,
mean
they
that
mean
they
that
feel like an
they feel
idiot
like an
because they
idiot.
have done
We
something
have done
stupid.
something stupid.
Very well. Have you ever been
Hmm.
fooled by anyone? Have you ever been fooled by anyone? Yes, no. I've
Yes,
been
I've been
fooled by
fooled by
someone.
someone
Give me an example of owing to. Please give me an example of owing to, please. Owing to the lack
owing to
of
the
ticket
lack of
sales,
ticket
the
sales.
concert
The
has been
concert has been
canceled.
cancelled.
Very well. What
Thank
happens when
you.
you pour too much water into a glass? What happens when we pour too much water into a glass? When we
When
pour
we
too much
pour too
water
much
into a
water into a
glass,
glass,
some of the
some
water
of the water
spills over
spills
the edge
over
of the
the edge
glass.
of the glass.
What does it mean? There's no use crying over spilt milk. What does it mean? There's no use crying over spilt milk. There's no
There's
use
no use
crying over
crying over
spilt
spilt
milk
milk.
means that
Means that
there's no
there's
point
no
getting
point getting
upset when
upset
something
when
goes
something
wrong.
goes
If
wrong
we cannot
if
do
we cannot do
anything to
anything
change
to
what has
change
happened.
what has happened.
Very well. When a person
Mm.
leaves a job, is it quite common for them to stay in contact with their former colleagues? When a person leaves a job, is it quite common for them to stay in contact with their former colleagues? Yes, when a
Yes,
person
when a
leaves a
person
job,
leaves a
it's
job,
quite
it's
common for
quite
them
common for
to stay
them
in
to
contact
stay in
with their
contact
former
with their
colleagues.
former colleagues.
What do we mean when we say Beethoven and Tolstoy were both great men? The former was German, whereas the latter was Russian. What do we mean when we say Beethoven and Tolstoy were both great men? The former was German, whereas the latter was Russian. When we
When we
say
say
Beethoven and
Beethoven and
Tolstoy were
Tolstoy
both
were
great
both
men,
great
the
men,
former
the
was
former was
German,
great
whereas the
German, whereas
latter
the
was
latter
Russian.
was Russian.
We
We
the
mean
first
the
mentioned
first
was
mentioned
German,
was German,
whereas the
whereas
second
the
mentioned
second
was
mentioned
Russian.
was Russian.
When an argument arises, do you agree it's sometimes better to back out of it before it gets too heated? When an argument arises, do you agree it's sometimes better to back out of it before it gets too heated? Yes, no.
Yes.
When an argument
When an
arises,
argument
I
arises,
agree it's
I
sometimes
agree it's
better
sometimes
to back
better to
out of
back
it
out of
before
it
it gets
before
too
it gets
heated.
too heated.
Why is it important to back up files on a computer? Why is it important to back up files on a computer? It's
It's
important to
important
back up
to back
files
up
on a
the
computer
files on computers
so that the
so
files
that
are
the
not
files
lost
are
if
not
the
lost
computer stops
in
working.
a
If the
computer. If the
computer
computer
stops
stops
working.
working. Thank you.
Have you ever, yes, no problem. Have you ever backed up a friend in an argument even though you knew they were wrong? Have you ever backed up a friend in an argument even though you knew they were wrong? Yes, no.
Yes.
I've backed up
I
a
backed
friend
up
in
a
an
friend in
argument
an argument
even though I
even though
knew
I
they were
knew
wrong.
they were wrong.
Does an artist model have to stay in one position for a long period without making any movements? Does an artist model have to stay in one position for a long period without making any movements? Yes, an
Yes,
artist
an
model
artist
has
models
to stay
are
in
to
one
stay one
position for
position
a long
for a long
period without
period
making
without
any
making any
movements.
movements.
Very well. What do we
Thank
say
you.
when someone sneezes? What do we say when someone sneezes? We say
We
bless
say
you
bless
when
you
someone
when someone
sneezes.
sneezes.
Very well. Which would you rather be blessed with, health or wealth? Which would you rather be blessed with, health or wealth? I'd rather
I'd
be
rather be
blessed
blessed
with.
with health.
Very well.
Hmm.
At a train station, how can we check what time a train is due to depart and which platform it will depart from? At a train station, how can we check what time a train is due to depart and which platform it will depart from? At a train
At a train
station, we
station,
can check
we
what
can
time a
check what
train
time
is
a
due to
train is
depart and which platform
due to
is due
depart.
to depart and
Is due to
which
depart at
platform
which
it
platform
will depart
it will
from
depart
by
from
looking at
by
the
looking at the
departure board.
departure board.
Okay, very well.
Hmm.
At an airport, how long before departure are people advised to check in?
Hmm.
At an airport, how long before departure are people advised to check in? At an
At an
airport,
airport,
people are
people are
advised to
advised
check
to
in
check in 60 to 90 minutes
before
before
departure.
departure.
Very well. So what would happen if I bit hard on my pencil?
Hmm.
What would happen if I bit hard on my pencil? If you bit
If you
hard
bit
on your
hard on your
pencil, you'd
pencil,
crack it.
you'd crack it.
Very well. What can
Hmm.
cause cracks in walls and ceilings? What can cause cracks in walls and ceilings? Age,
H.
dampness,
Dampness,
dryness, or
dryness,
bad
or
workmanship
bad
can
workmanship
cause
can
cracks
cause
in walls
cracks
and
in walls
ceilings.
and ceilings.
What does the verb to spin mean? What does the verb to spin mean? The verb to
The verb
spin
to
means
spin
to
means
turn
to
round and
turn
round
round and
very
round very
quickly or
quickly,
make
or
something
make
turn
something
round
to
and round
turn
very
around
quickly.
to turn around and round
Very quickly.
very quickly.
Okay, what are
May I try one more time?
no problem.
Okay.
The verb to
The
spin
verb to
means
spin
to
means
turn
to
round
turn
and
round
round
and round
very
very
quickly
quickly,
or make
or make
something turn
something
round
turn
and
round
round
and round
very
very
quickly.
quickly. Thank you.
Okay, very well.
Hmm.
What are the three forms of spin? What are the three forms of spin? The
The
three
three
forms
forms
of
of
spin
spin
are
are spin, span, span.
very good. What's a
Thank
spin
you.
dryer? What's a spin dryer? A
A
spin
spin
dryer is a
dryer is
machine
a
that
machine
dries
that
clothes by
dries clothes
spinning
by
them
spinning
round
them
very
round and
quickly.
round very quickly.
Okay, so do you think most people join gyms mainly because
Hmm.
they want to become slimmer rather than because they want to get fit? Do you think most people join gyms mainly because they want to become slimmer rather than because they want to get fit? Yes, no.
Yes.
I think most
I think
people
most
join
people
gyms
join gyms
mainly because
mainly
they want to
because they
become
want to
slimmer
become
rather
slimmer
than
rather
because
than
they want to get
because
fit.
they want to get fit.
Rather than because they
Rather than
want to get
because
fit.
they want to get fit.
Okay, very well. If
Mm.
you were an actor,
Mm.
what kind of role would you like to play in a film? If you
Mm.
were an actor, what kind of role would you like to play in a film? If
If
I were
I
an
were an
actor, I'd
actor,
like to
I'd
play
like
the
to play
role
the
of.
role of the richest man in the world.
Okay, wow, very well. Okay, so do you think computers will ever replace school teachers in the classroom? Do you think computers will ever replace school teachers in the classroom? Yes, no.
No,
I don't
I
think
don't think
computers will
computers
ever
will
replace
ever
school
replace
teachers
school
in the
teachers in the
classroom.
classroom.
Is it always necessary to book a table before going to a restaurant? Is it always necessary to book a table before going to a restaurant? No, it
No,
isn't
it
always
isn't always
necessary to
necessary
book a
to
table
book a
before
table
going to
before
a
going to a
restaurant.
restaurant.
Do famous actors, singers, or entertainers normally make their own arrangements with the venues where they're booked to perform? Do famous actors, singers, or entertainers normally make their own arrangement with the venues where they're booked to perform? No, a
No,
famous actors,
famous actors,
singers, or
singers, or
entertainers
entertainers
don't normally
don't
make their
normally
own
make their own
arrangements with
arrangements
the venues
with the
where
venues
they're booked
where they
to
are booked to
perform.
perform.
They've nearly
They nearly
always got
always got
managers who
managers
make their
who make their
arrangements for
arrangements
them.
for them.
Okay, very well. So
Hmm.
now we are done with our daily revisions, and
Yeah.
now let's start with our new work.
Hmm.
Now, please repeat anyway.
Anyway.
Okay, now please listen.
Hmm.
Anyway is an adverb.
Hmm.
The word anyway can be used in three common ways.
Okay.
First, with the meaning of despite that. For
Hmm.
example, I couldn't stand her, but I had to invite her to the party anyway.
Hmm.
Two,
Hmm.
in order to give another reason for something.
Hmm.
For example,
Hmm.
that phone is slightly too big for me,
Hmm.
and anyway, it's much too expensive.
Hmm.
3. In order to change the subject of a conversation or return to a subject
Hmm.
that we are talking about previously.
Hmm.
For example, so anyway, as I was saying,
Hmm.
we need to start planning our holiday. So now
Hmm.
let's
Hmm. Hmm.
practice.
Okay.
Give me an example of anyway with the meaning of
Hmm.
despite that. Give
Okay.
me an example of anyway with the meaning of despite that. His English is
His
very
English is
good
very good
indeed, but
indeed,
he wants
but
to
he
do
wants to
lessons
do
anyway.
lessons anyway.
Okay, very well.
Hmm.
Give me an example of anyway used in order to give another reason for something. Give me an example of anyway used in order to give another reason for something. I think
I
they're too
think
young to
they're too
get
young to
married.
get married,
And I'm not
and
even
I'm not
sure
even
they
sure
really love
they
each
really love
other
each
anyway.
other anyway.
Okay, very well. Give me an example of anyway used in order to change the subject of a conversation or return to a subject that was being talked about previously. Give me an example of anyway used in order to change the subject of a conversation or return to a subject that was being talked about previously. So,
So
anyway,
anyway,
after the film,
after the
we
film,
decided to
we
go to
decide
a
to go
club.
to a club.
Okay, very well. Now, please repeat warm.
Rome.
Okay, now please listen.
Okay.
The noun of the adjective warm is warmth. Now let's
Bounce.
practice.
Okay.
What's the noun of the adjective warm? What's the noun of the adjective warm? The
The
noun of the
noun of the
adjective
adjective
warm
warm
is
is warmth.
very well. Now please repeat
Thank you.
muddy.
Muddy.
Okay, now please listen.
Okay.
Muddy is an adjective.
Hmm.
For example, when we walk in the rain and step on the ground with mud, our
Mm.
shoes will get muddy. We
Muddy.
need to remove our muddy shoes before entering a house. So now let's practice. Should we
Okay.
always remove muddy shoes before entering a house? Should we always remove muddy shoes before entering a house? Yes, we
Yes,
should
we
always
should
remove
always remove
muddy shoes
muddy shoes
before
before
entering a
entering a
house.
house.
Very well. Now
Thank
please
you.
repeat. Meanwhile.
Meanwhile.
Okay, now please listen.
Hmm.
Meanwhile is an adverb.
Hmm.
It means at or during the same time. For example, I was eating my lunch.
Hmm.
Meanwhile,
Hmm.
my sister was studying her lessons. You
Oh.
can set the table.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I'll
Hmm.
start making dinner. Okay,
Mm,
so
mm,
now
mm,
let's
mm.
practice.
Okay.
Make a sentence with the word meanwhile, please. Make a sentence with the word meanwhile, please. Chris was doing
Chris
his
was doing
homework,
his
and
homework, and
meanwhile, the
meanwhile,
other
the
children
other
were playing
children
football in the garden.
were playing football in the garden.
Okay, very well. That's
Oh,
correct.
thank
Now,
you.
please repeat. Peck.
Peck.
Beak.
Beak.
Okay, now please listen.
Mm,
So, beak is a noun.
mm,
It is the hard part, usually pointed, that covers the bird and chicken's
mm,
mouth.
mm, mm, mm,
So, peck is a verb which means to strike sharply at something using
mm,
the beak.
mm,
Now,
mm,
okay, for example, when a
mm.
chicken eats food on the ground, the chicken pecks the food with its beak. So, now let's practice.
Okay,
What
okay.
do we mean when we say that a chicken pecks the ground? What do we mean when we say that a chicken pecks the ground? When we say
When we
that
say
a
that
chicken
a
pecks the
chicken
ground,
picks the
we
ground,
mean
we
that it
mean
picks
that
up
it
food
picks
from
up
the
food
ground
from the
with
ground
its beak.
with its beak.
Okay, very well. Now please repeat. Block.
Block.
Clay.
Clay.
Okay, now please
Mm,
listen. Block can be
mm,
used as a noun or a verb. As a noun, it means a solid material that we use for building houses.
mm,
As
mm,
a
mm,
verb, it means to place in front of something so that people or things cannot pass.
mm,
For
mm, mm,
example, the police blocked the roads so
mm,
no one could enter.
mm, mm,
Clay is a noun. It is used to make pots, bricks, tiles, etc.
mm,
For example, we call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make building bricks.
mm,
So
mm.
now let's practice. What do we
Okay.
call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings? What do we call the blocks of hard clay that are commonly used to make buildings? We call the
We
blocks
call the
of hard
blocks of
clay
hard
that are
clay
commonly
that are
used
common
to make
used to
buildings
make buildings to
bricks.
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 Okay, very well. What
Okay.
else can we make from clay? What else can we make from clay? We can make
We can make
plates,
plates,
cups,
cups,
etc. from
etc.
clay.
from clay.
Why do the police sometimes block a road? Why do the police sometimes block a road?
Mm.
The police
The police
sometimes block
sometimes
a road
block a
because.
road because to catch criminals and to protect the government officials.
Okay, very well. Okay, now
Thank
please
you.
repeat. Cream.
Cream,
Fatty.
fatty.
Okay, now please listen.
Mm,
Cream is a noun. It is
mm,
the fatty part of a milk which appears like a thick liquid or anything which
mm, mm,
looks or feels similar to it and used for different purposes.
mm,
For
mm,
example, milk cream, ice cream, face cream,
mm, mm,
etc.
mm,
Fatty is an adjective
mm,
which means containing too much fat. For
mm,
example, some steaks are fatty,
mm,
they contain a lot of fats and oils. So
mm,
now
mm,
let's
mm,
practice.
mm. Okay.
What is cream and where does it come from? What is cream and where does it come from? Cream is the
Cream
fatty
is the
part of
fatty
milk
part
or
of milk
anything
or
which
anything
looks
which
or
looks
feels
or
similar
feels
to it.
similar to
To it.
similar to it.
Okay, very well.
Okay,
Do
thank
you
you.
believe it's worth spending money or expensive face creams? Do you believe it's worth spending money on expensive face creams? Yes, I
Yes,
believe
I
it's worth
believe.
spending money
I
on.
I, I believe
It's worth
it
spending
was spending
money
money
on
on
expensive face
expensive face
creams.
creams.
Okay, now please
Mm.
repeat. Spring, sprung, sprung.
Spring, sprang, sprung.
Spring.
Spring.
Okay, now please listen.
Mm,
Spring can be used as a verb or a noun. As a verb, spring means to move quickly and suddenly toward a particular place or to a new
mm,
condition.
mm,
For
mm.
example, I don't usually spring out of bed in the morning. I sometimes lie in bed for a few minutes.
Mm, mm,
As a noun, spring means a curved or bent metal
mm,
that
mm,
can be
mm,
pressed into small space
mm,
but will return to its actual shape if it's released. For example, I
mm.
can't feel the springs inside the mattress on my bed because my bed is new. The three
Oh,
forms of spring are spring, sprang, sprung. So now let's practice. Do you spring out of bed in the morning? Do you spring out of bed in the morning? Yes, no.
no.
I don't spring
I
out
don't
of
spring
bed
out
in the
of bed in the
morning.
morning.
What are the three forms of spring? What are the three forms of spring? The
The
three
three
forms of
forms of
spring
spring
are.
are spring, sprang, sprung.
Very well. Can
Thank
you
you.
feel the springs inside the mattress on your bed? Can you feel the springs inside the mattress of your bed? Yes, no.
Yes.
I can feel the
I can feel
springs
the
inside
springs
the
inside
mattress
the
on my
mattress
bed.
on my bed.
Okay, now please repeat. Curious.
Curious.
Investigate.
Investigate.
Okay, now please listen.
Okay.
Curious is an adjective. It means
Mm,
having a desire to know a lot of about something. For
mm, mm,
example,
mm,
children are usually curious about everything.
mm, mm,
They always ask questions and want to know more about things.
mm, mm,
Investigate is a verb
mm,
which means to find out facts about
mm,
something such as a crime or
mm,
an accident.
mm, mm,
For example, Police investigate crimes. We call the police officer who investigates crimes a detective. So
Okay.
now let's practice.
Okay.
Are cats well known for having a curious nature? Are cats well known for having a curious nature? Yes,
Yes,
cats are well
cats
known
are well
for
known
having a
for having
curious
a curious
nature.
nature.
If you heard a curious noise outside your room in the middle of the night,
Mm,
would you stay in bed or go and investigate? If
mm.
you heard a curious noise outside your room in the middle of the night, would you stay in bed or go and investigate? If I heard
If I
a
heard
curious
a
noise
curious noise
outside my room
outside my
in the
room
middle
in
of
the
the
middle
night,
of the night,
I'd
I'd go and investigate.
Okay, very well.
Thank
What
you.
do we call a police officer who investigates crime? What do we call a police officer who investigates crime? We call a
We
police
call a police
officer who
officer who
investigates crimes
investigates
a
crimes
detective.
a detective.
Okay, very well. So I'm afraid we only have about less than 5 minutes left, so it's time for
Okay,
a
okay,
reading
okay,
practice. So
okay.
in your last lesson, you read until
Hmm.
stage 10, paragraph 847 with the last head word allowance. Is this correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now please start with the next
Hmm.
paragraph, 848, with the first head word beg.
Beg. Okay, maksud nata.
Gusto ko na ta.
Beg, forgive, forgiveness, pardon. I beg your pardon. Are you against people begging in the streets? No, I'm not against people begging in the streets. On what kind of occasions do people beg for forgiveness? The kind of occasions people beg for forgiveness are when they have done something seriously wrong. Do you believe people should always be forgiven for the things they do wrong? No, I don't believe people should always be forgiven for the things they do wrong. When we have not quite heard what someone has just said, what do we say? When we have not quite heard what someone has just said, we say I beg your pardon, or just pardon, or sorry. A disease, contagious, influenza, typhoid. Tell me the names of some common contagious diseases, please. Some common contagious diseases are influenza, typhoid, and COVID-19. Fire. Have you ever fired a real gun? No, I've never fired a real gun. Room. Solution. Do you think there is and always will be enough room in the world for everybody? No, I don't think there is and always will be enough room in the world for everybody. If not, what do you think the best solution to the problem? I think the best solution to the problem is to cultivate stars other than the Earth. Jet. Name someone who you reckon probably owns a private jet. I reckon Manny Pacquiao probably owns a private jet. Or Duterte. Sharp. Do you think a person needs a sharp mind to work as a detective? Yes, I think a person needs a sharp mind to work as a detective. What do you mean by a sharp pain? By a sharp pain, we mean a severe pain that starts suddenly. Process. Raw. Do you regard buying products online as a simple or complicated process? I regard buying products online as a simple process. Wait. A simple process. What do we mean by raw materials? By raw materials, we mean materials in their natural or unprocessed state. Give me some examples, please. Coal, wood, cotton, etc. Do you ever eat raw meat or vegetables? Yes, I sometimes eat raw meat or vegetables. What do you mean by processed food? By processed food, we mean food that has been changed from its raw or natural state in order to preserve it or make it safer to eat. Give me some examples, please. Frozen vegetables, biscuits, etc. A sample. Why might a baker offer a customer a free sample of a particular type of bread? A baker might offer a customer a free sample of a particular type of bread to let the customer try it before deciding to buy a whole loaf. Undergraduate. Graduate. What's an undergraduate? An undergraduate is a university student who has not finished their degree yet. And what do we call somebody who has finished their degree successfully? If we can call somebody who has finished their degree successfully a graduate. Vain. In vain. Who is a vainest person you know? Donald Trump is a vainest person I know. What does the expression in vain mean? The expression in vain means failing to produce a good result. Give me an example, please. The doctors struggled in vain to save the man. as long as, so long as. Is it good for the health to drink red wine as long as we don't drink too much? Yes, it's good for the health to drink red wine as long as we don't drink too much. Turn to, turn out to be, badly. Traffic lights, misjudge. In some shops, do customers have to take ticket to show whose turn it is to be served? Yes, in some shops, customers have to take ticket to show whose turn it is to be served. In what order do traffic lights turn from stop to go? That is, in what order do the colors change? The traffic lights turn from stop to go by changing from red to green.
I'm really sorry to cut you off, Yamachan. We don't have much time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. というわけで、最近一緒に勉強するようになったロッチ先生とカラーメソッドステージ10をしました。この後、退出をして、今日のレッスンの感想を書いて、通信環境が良かったか悪かったかなども書いて、そしてロッチ先生に対しての、ありがとうとか、面白かった点とか、気にかけてくれて嬉しかった点などをコメントを残して、今日のレッスンを終了します。